And I've promised myself that I don't have to publish this. I can publish it later. So if I am publishing it, hey, that's pretty cool. So I want to share with you about something that it's crazy. It really is. And again, I don't know how many people who are on the spectrum experience something like this. I have heard of other people who experience similar things. It's really, really hard for me and a lot of people on the spectrum to be around a lot of people. And there are a lot of reasons for that. I'll explain that in a different video. But one thing for me, besides just not knowing how to act a lot of times, like I'm just really uncomfortable. I don't know if what I'm doing is okay or not. Like if you want to go talk to the pastor and there's other people standing around talking to him, or anybody really, what do? Do you stand there with those people? Do you stand off to a distance? It seems like whatever I do kind of bugs people, so I don't know. And maybe somebody can explain what the protocol is down there. My current priest, actually people line up to talk to him. That makes it a lot easier. Okay, but it's just difficult. One of the reasons why it's difficult for me to be around a lot of people, and this may also be because I'm an introvert, is when I'm around more than like one or two people, it's kind of like everybody's vampires that are sucking my blood out. It's not, I don't see that or anything. I don't think that they're vampires, but that's just the way I can explain it. It's like they take out my energy. They take out almost what feels like my soul. So being around a crowd of people is very difficult. Now, there's an exception to that. I used to speak at conventions and retreats and stuff, and I've spoken to more than 1,000 people at one time. And I was a little nervous at first, but it didn't bother me in the way that I'm talking about. And I think because I knew exactly what I was going to do, I was going to give this talk and I knew pretty much what I was going to say. I don't know, I felt secure and everything. So I think that makes a difference. But then like a lot of times people would come up and talk to me and want me to pray with them or just, talk to them and stuff. And that would get to be really, really exhausting. And I didn't know at the time that I had autism, but I would usually ask the people who were planning the convention not to give me back-to-back speaking sessions, to try to spread those out so that I could rest. I often slept in between sessions. So speaking in front of people doesn't really bother me, but being right in that crowd is just very, very difficult. And it just feels like it just drains everything out of me. And the more people there are, the more it drains, the more noises there are. So I don't go into gymnasiums. Our parish has a family life center and they do things there. I can't go to those things because of all the squeaking and all this stuff. So I can't go. This Saturday, they're expecting to have a lot of people at the Saturday evening mass, which is the one I usually go to because there aren't very many people there. And so since there's going to be a lot of people, and especially because I'm going through a very difficult time right now with my autism, I will probably go to the 7 a.m. mass, which is very sparse at another parish. Just because I know I can't handle it, that's going to send me over the edge. Sometimes I can do okay going to a crowded mass because I'm doing fairly well at that time. I still have the problems I'm going to describe to you in a moment, but I have more inside me to be able to handle that. So if a lot of that is sucked out, I'm still okay. So one thing that I sometimes feel, and I know this is not happening, okay? And it's not even an illusion or anything. It's not like I'm actually seeing it, but I just feel like this is a lot of times I feel like I'm in a corner of the church and everybody is screaming at me and kicking me and throwing things at me. And I have a picture that I drew kind of this situation, not in a church, but kind of showing how I feel, unfortunately, usually around Christians. And I'll try to remember to explain the reason for that too. But I feel that way. And I know there's probably most of the people in our church are not even aware of me because I sit way over to the side and I don't really visit with people. I sneak out a side door unless I really need to talk to the priest or something. So most people really aren't even aware of me. And those who do, I'm pretty sure that they like me. You know, they don't have any reason not to like me. I haven't done anything really weird there, I don't think. Not that I know of. But I know that they don't hate me. I know that they don't want to kick me or yell at me or anything like that. But that's how it feels to me to be in a crowd. And I said a moment ago, especially among Christians. And so, Christians, I want you to listen to this, please. I mentioned in another video that I've been through a lot of condemnation. That's always been from Christians. And it's been because they misunderstand me. And I can look back and I can go, it's mostly because of my autism. And I didn't know I was autistic. They didn't know I was autistic. So I'm not mad at them or anything, but it has caused a lot of trauma. Some of that condemnation went on for years and years and years. People writing to me and telling me that they burned my books and tapes because of something that I did that I really had to do. And people who knew the situation knew that I had to do it, but you can't just go around talking about why you did this. And I didn't do it because I was autistic. But as somebody who is autistic, I look back at that and I realize that it was worse for me because I was autistic and because I don't know how to deal with things like that. So because of the repeated condemnation that I've gotten from Christians, and let me also say, I've lived within the church community for most of my life. I mainly hang out with Christians. So, you know, maybe non-Christians would also have found reasons to condemn me. I don't know. We're supposed to really love each other. And we're not supposed to just, you know, you are supposed to discern between what's right and wrong. And you do have to be careful of people who are wolves in sheep's clothing and stuff. But I've had people say things to me like, we thought we really knew you, but then we found out this, or then we saw this. And it's like, yes, you did know me and you do know me. And why are you believing this thing that somebody's saying against me that doesn't fit with what you know? Or doesn't fit with what you've seen of me and experienced of me for 30 years, you know? And that can be really, really traumatic. And it doesn't make sense to me, at least. But even, you know, when I've shared about this with psychologists and stuff, you know, it's like, yeah, no, they shouldn't have just decided that you were different because somebody said something when they knew from their experience how you really were. But as an autistic person, that's extremely difficult to understand. And especially the condemnation when you're really trying to be good and you're really trying to follow Christ, and then you have people condemning you for stuff. That just, it does a lot to you. It makes you feel like God doesn't love you. It makes you feel like there is something really, really wrong with you when there may not be. So years later, I was taking a class for healing through the pains of your past. It was being taught by a pastor's wife, and it was wonderful. And one of the things that she said to do is to close your eyes and imagine God, and you're in God's presence. How do you see God? Okay, as an autistic person, again, literal it, I'm thinking, no, I can't imagine that because it's wrong for me to imagine God. But when I finally was able to get through that, I imagined God and I saw him with his back turned to me. That really freaked me out because I knew in my head, God wouldn't turn his back on me. And yet I saw that and felt that and realized that's what I really actually believe in my heart. I know in my head, he hasn't turned his back on me, but I felt in my heart that he didn't love me, maybe even hated me, and that he had turned his back to me. And it took me a few weeks to work through this. And even if you're not autistic, I think this might help you if you feel that way. What I realized when I was working through it was God hadn't turned his back on me. He hadn't rejected me. but many of his people had. Those people who were condemning me wrongly, they had turned their back on me. And so I realized, okay, I can't judge God by his people. I think that's such an important message for anybody, whether you're Christian or not. That's so important because God's people, we're not perfect. We like to say we're not perfect, we're forgiven. And most of us really try, but we're sinners still, and so we fail. And no one should judge God by a person's failure. In the Catholic Church, we say, don't leave Jesus because of Judas. There's a lot of bad things that happen and everything. And that's not because of Jesus. That's because there's human beings and they do really, really bad things. But that doesn't mean that Jesus is bad or that the Catholic Church is bad. It means those individuals are bad. And I would say the same thing about Christians in general. Those people who condemned me, they did the wrong thing. They're not necessarily bad people. They misunderstood. They, didn't know enough to not just judge somebody without finding out what really happened. And, so for various reasons, they condemned me, but there was enough of that it really made me feel that God had turned his back on me. And I really believed that. I realized that I believed that in my heart, even though I knew in my head that wasn't true. Is that an autistic thing to think something in your heart and something different in your head? I don't know. Is that normal or is that autistic? I don't know. But so because of that, all this condemnation and stuff, and I now understand, I can't judge God by what people do. And so I can't judge whether or not God loves me by how people treat me. And I do understand that. I think I understand that in my heart too. And I also understand that we're not good ambassadors a lot of times. I'm not a good ambassador of Christ. Okay. So I can't judge other people, and say, oh, they're bad or not forgive them or something, because I'm also I'm not a perfect ambassador of Jesus. But because of that, and it's really hard to get rid of trauma. I think that's true for anybody. I don't think that's just an autistic thing. I have those feelings of being kicked and yelled at and everything by people who they wouldn't do that. They probably don't even feel like that. So that's what I experience. And I think that that's mainly because I am autistic. And so that's what it's like for me. Not every time that I go to church or to mass, but quite often. And it helps to separate myself from everybody. But it also, if there's somebody who really understands me and understands my autism, when they sit really closely, and especially if they sit between me and everybody else, I feel some protection. And I don't just feel like that person's protecting me. I feel like God's put that person there to protect me. And again, there's no reason for me to be afraid of these people or anything. And I'm not really afraid of the individuals. It's just the whole collective. And so, yeah, I know I sound really crazy, right? Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to put this out there, but if I have, hopefully you won't just decide that I'm completely crazy and you don't want to ever hear from me again. All right. I love you all, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.